back, everybody. Woo! Hey, welcome back to a little show we like to call Roll
with the
Troll. Hey, today we're talking about The Office. Now, I know usually you're thinking, well, this channel's about like Halloween movies and Cobra Kai, Karate Kid, Star Wars.
And Cobra Kai.
But yeah, a lot of Cobra Kai. But lately we've been talking a lot of shit about The Office. This show is so enduring, isn't it? Like, it's been off the air for many years. Mm-hmm. And when it was on the air, it had a really long run, 9 seasons.
Yeah.
And yet this show, it's kind of like Seinfeld. It doesn't really go away. Mm-hmm. You just miss it more and more.
It's one of those shows that when you go back and rewatch it, it's like coming home again.
Yeah, and I don't think anything like it has happened since at all.
No, not really.
So, you know, there's a longing for it because we don't really have like a replacement show or anything that kind of took the baton and ran. So anyway, let's get into the age-old question that everybody ended up with when the show wrapped up, which was Robert as funny as Michael?
Yeah.
Because clearly that was the intent, right? The intention was we've got to keep the funny going without Michael.
Robert had the funnier name.
Yeah, Robert California that wasn't even his real name. Remember when?
Right, I know.
I love that they. By the way, before we get into it, I love that they worked that in.
Yeah.
Because everybody was saying that the season he was on in season 8, we were all kind of like, is that supposed to be his real name, or is that like a joke, or what's going on? And then on his way out, one of the last lines he got to deliver that line to Andy where he goes, "You don't even know my real fucking name. I'm the Lizard King." That was great that all along he was lying about his name.
Yeah. Well, and it fit his character.
It was perfect. Yeah, there were so many brilliant things about the development of Robert California. And the whole thing about Robert was really interesting because you realize how little he was actually on the show.
I know, it's kind of weird.
I think they tried to give you the impression that he was a main cast member throughout season 8, but really he was only on less than half the episodes, I believe. He really wasn't on that much. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about it, I mean, I think in total he did something like 10 or 11 episodes of The Office, and that's it. So the fact that we can even have this conversation now is kind of funny because here's a guy who did like 10, 11, 12 episodes of The Office. And I know he did a little bit at the end of season 7 too. But he had so little overall screen time in the whole run of The Office as compared to Michael. Not even close, right?
Oh, not even close. Yeah.
Michael had like 20 times more total screen time. And yet we're even having this conversation. That's how enigmatic, I guess, Robert was, you know, and how they pushed him into such a position and just maximized the little bit of time that he was actually on.
They sure did.
And with Michael, I would say they almost did the opposite because Michael absorbed the show those first like 7.5 seasons. I mean, it was all about Michael almost always.
Yeah.
And yet I felt like they did a lot of the same kind of jokes over and over again. Mm-hmm. Not complaining. I loved Michael's whole run, but he was getting pretty predictable. He really was kind of like a one-trick pony in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's a good observation.
You know? Mm-hmm. And so with Michael, I feel like they just were bleeding him dry about how can we do that same joke in a slightly different way and get to use it again. And then, oh, look, same joke again. Now we'll kind of use it in this context. And ultimately, it was always the same few things. Mm-hmm. Robert was totally different. He was a very, very diverse character. In fact, with him, they made him too diverse. Because you think about it, I felt like he kept getting retconned.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, you think about it, he only did so few episodes overall. Yeah. And yet they couldn't even keep his character consistent in those few episodes over one season.
Yeah, I felt like there were 3 or 4 different versions of Robert California over the course of some 10 episodes or whatever.
Yeah, and we are going to talk about who's funnier. I know we're kind of deviating right now, but another couple of points here are, do you realize that Michael, at one point, like in the Halloween episode, so it was early on for him. It was like 3 or 4 episodes in. And the Halloween episode, he actually made the comment to Andy when Andy said, "Oh, this must be making you uncomfortable." And he says, "I'm never uncomfortable." And he just sat there. They were really trying to show you this guy is in charge of every room he's in. He's the alpha. He doesn't give a fuck what's going on around him.
Robert.
Yeah, that's him. Then a few short episodes later, he is like Fred Flintstone screaming about the episode called Mrs. California.
Yeah.
Remember that when she showed up and he's terrified of this sweet little woman.
He's all nervous.
Oh, he's like bleeding out both eyes and running up and down. And you got to get me out of here. And he's everywhere. He was very out of control. And I thought, wait, did I miss something? This is the same Robert.
Yeah, what happened to smooth Robert?
Right?
In control Robert.
It was so weird. And then as soon as she left him, he wasn't really mad at anybody, even though it was essentially their fault. Then he's getting a bear hug from Kevin and he's having a party and it was very odd to me that a guy who was so above everybody was suddenly very below everybody for a while.
Right, yeah.
And I got the impression that they made his character more of a chameleon to whatever the episode needed him to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So instead of a constant, like, well, Robert would never do that. They just said, fuck it. It's season 8. Just write him as whatever. Just change his character a bit. Sometimes very in control, sometimes very out of control. He was always funny, but we never really got to know him. And then in the end, they made us like not like him, right? In that last episode, I feel like the ultimate move was just, he was a slime ball all along. Don't remember this guy well.
Yeah.
That was the last kind of point. So anyway, those are my thoughts about Robert. I thought he was all over the place and used very wildly. Michael was very pinpointed. There was just a very few ways to make him funny, and they used them a million times over in every scenario possible.
Yeah, yeah. When we get to the subject of who's funnier, though, their comedy was so different. You know, Michael Scott was a little more slapsticky, whereas Robert California was a little more like dry humor, smart. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, Michael, the jokes are all about his cock. Everything, he's just total, just cock everywhere. Robert was
so much.
very, yeah, okay, maybe not, but Michael was very cartoony. I put him in the same, like he followed all the same tropes as like a Fred Flintstone, a Homer Simpson. He
very hapless, very obtuse.
Yeah, hapless, obtuse, like in a situation where you kind of got to wonder, like, what is he doing in this situation? Like, how is he the manager? You know, and just like you kind of think about those other guys, like, how are they dads? They don't seem like they don't seem like they could hold a job and be a dad, these guys.
Yeah. And then with Robert California, it totally made sense when he just wormed his way right into the president position.
Yeah, the CEO. Company. That was wild. And we saw that off screen. We didn't see it, I guess. It was off screen. So that was a funny situation with Robert. I thought that was brilliant. Yeah. It was a really smart move on NBC's part too, just to say, look, we want to have a big name like James Spader on who can really shake it up and do something different. He will be unique and creative and take the show somewhere else. At the same time, we also want to have our cake and eat it too, and have Andy be exactly like Michael. I mean, Andy may as well have worn Michael's fucking actual shoes and skin while he was at it. Because he followed so exact. I mean, those jokes written for Andy were just exactly perfectly written for Michael. You know?
Yeah.
Very much. And I felt like, okay, so it's brilliant what they did. They got to basically give you the antithesis of Michael and then a new version of Michael. And that way, whoever you were, you had to like them. And I always relate everything to bands. You guys, if you know our channel at all, I'm a rock and roll kind of person, so I know bands really well. I think of it this way. If you think about the show as like a band, like a rock band, and they have to change singers, think of Michael as the singer.
Yeah.
There's two ways to go. You either get a completely unique, different guy so that no one can accuse you of trying to keep the party going with the guy who's not there anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Either you go get a completely different singer and just change the band sound, like Sammy Hagar with Van Halen, right?
Right, yeah.
He didn't try to be David Lee Roth at all. He did his own thing, brought a totally different vibe to it, and people really responded in a big way. Some people were disappointed too. And then you got bands who they go out and like Judas Priest, they go get a singer who sounds a lot like the first singer. And basically they're just shrugging and saying, look, you loved what we were doing. We're not going to mix it up. So fuck you. We're going to try to keep this for what you like.
Safe, yeah.
Yeah. Play it more safe. This show really took a stab at doing both.
All of it.
They tried to give you two singers and just say, you're going to have one guy who's just like Michael and one guy who's totally different. And that way we're going to get both. And that was a brilliant idea, I thought.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
it was really smart. And I loved season 8. I absolutely loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Me too.
truthfully, I really didn't miss Michael as much. I think Michael's one of the funniest characters in sitcom history. I do.
Yeah, for sure.
Incredibly well played. He was brilliant. But at the end of the day, I really loved season 8. I didn't find myself really missing Michael much. I found myself actually really curious for each new episode because the show felt new for the first time since it was new in season 1.
Yeah, and for the people who stopped watching after Michael Scott, after the character was off the show, they missed a lot of good shows.
Yeah, great.
Those were good seasons. They were much better than people give them credit for.
Well, look, we're 10 minutes in. We still haven't broached the topic, so we got to get to this. Who was ultimately funnier, voice of reason? Go ahead and tell us.
I'm partial to Robert California myself.
You feel he wasn't just a better character, but you're actually saying he was funnier than Michael.
Yes, because that style of humor appeals to me more than the slapsticky stuff.
Gotcha, yeah. To me, that style of humor absolutely does appeal to me more. The nervous titter, that he never gave you the belly laughs. I never had big belly laughs from anything Robert did, but he always made me uncomfortable, and he always made me he was fascinating to watch. He was fascinating.
Yeah.
Michael wasn't fascinating. Michael was it was very low hanging fruit usually.
Right. Yeah.
Very well delivered, but low hanging fruit. But despite everything, I actually still, pound for pound, I've got to give it to Michael on the funny scale. Michael has had moments where I could just rewind over and over again. In fact, I probably did. Michael has had so many things that are so quotable, that are so quotable over and over and over again and will not be forgotten. Robert was great. He was a better character. I don't think he was a funnier character. But really, he was a very mixed bag. I mean, he was so complicated that to write big belly laughs for him, I don't think would have been possible. Belly laughs come from knowing that you can really hit a slam dunk. You know what I mean? That you can get the bullseye. That's a big belly laugh for me. You can't do that with a character as spontaneous as Robert. So I don't fault the show at all. I think they were brilliant with it, but I think they made a calculated move that we're going to trade the huge laughs for a more creative, more unique show that taps into parts of your brain that you don't even think about. And Robert really did that. He was so unique.
Yeah.
So yeah, I give the laughs though to Michael. And I think even, not just because Michael had way more screen time, so he got more laughs from me. Robert only did so many episodes, like 10 or 12, whatever it was. I still don't think if you multiplied that out to all the shows Michael did, I don't think I'd have as many big laughs from him. I just don't. I don't think he was set up that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think the opposite, actually. I think that if the character Robert California had been on longer, I think that the character would have continued to evolve because I think they were testing out a lot of different things with him. And as you said, they kind of made him a chameleon a bit. But I would have liked to see where Robert California landed, in terms of the character and the humor. So we kind of got gypped. I feel like I got gypped when he wasn't there.
Yeah, it would have been. I really thought he was going to be on season 9, but he really wanted to just barely test out season 8 and see if it was anything for him. And he did not click with the cast at all, too.
That's what I've heard.
There was a whole thing there for another video. But so at the end of the day, one of us, I will say that Robert was not quite as funny as Michael, even though he was overall a better character, I guess. And you, voice of reason, are saying that actually Robert was funnier than Michael.
Robert California for me. Thank you.
Well, I would like to invite all of you listening to comment and go ahead and troll on the voice of reason. Because that's what they're going to do. They're going to explain to you. First of all, we have the best comments section ever. We get way more insightful comments than any other video I've seen, really. We really do. We get consistently really articulate people with brilliant points. So I want to keep that trainer rolling. But let us know what you think. Who is funnier and why? I can't wait to see these comments. These are going to be. Too. We've got some really good, smart office people in the crowd too. So I can't wait to hear what everybody says. Guys, if you haven't already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to our beautiful channel. We're having a blast.
Hit the like button.
Hit the like button, please. We always appreciate your support, and we will see you all tomorrow to talk more about who knows what else we're talking about.
God
tomorrow.
only knows.
All right, guys, have a great day.